Joining us, who are presenting at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, we're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I even provided a map for you in case you're not 100% sure where Minneapolis is in the US. It's the yellow dot in the middle at the top. We're a University of Minnesota campus, the flagship University of Minnesota campus on the Mississippi River. And we are located on the west bank of the Mississippi River. The University of Minnesota campus is unique in that it's split by the river. So we've got the west bank, the east bank, and then we have an agricultural campus, or what used to be considered an agricultural campus, in St. Paul, which is the other city that make up the Twin Cities of Minnesota. The Humphrey School has 6 master's degree programs, of which the development practice degree, or the MDP, is one of them. We also have a degree program in public policy, public affairs, the MPP, the MPA, development practice I already mentioned, the Masters of Human Rights, urban and regional planning, and science, technology, and environmental policy, which is a thesis-based degree, whereas the other 5 are professional degree programs. So today we're going to talk specifically about the Masters of Development Practice program. And I'd like to ask Raghi, rather, if he would take over now.
Yeah, so the idea of development practice really came up as a result of some thinkers in the development field brought together by an American foundation called the MacArthur Foundation to think about what would be an ideal education for somebody who's going to be a professional in development practice. And so that high-level commission came together around 2009 to think about how to prepare students to really identify the complex problems of development that really require people who can think across the silos of different disciplinary boundaries. As a result of that, a global network of programs that are considering themselves Masters of Development Practice programs was formed. Some of them were funded by the MacArthur Foundation, some of them formed on their own. There are currently 40 universities in 20 countries that are offering these Masters of Development Practice degrees that have this commonality of kind of following the original philosophy of that high-level commission brought together by the MacArthur Foundation. And so the main idea behind the degree is that you really have to cross boundaries in order to be a good development practitioners, and the boundaries of knowledge areas. So you need to know something about economics, about management, about education, about health, about social sciences, about environment and the science of the environment. You also have boundaries of methodological approaches, so that you need to have a practical training in quantitative data, in qualitative data, in being able to do evaluation, in being able to really deal with evidence in various ways. And then the idea of also having practical training, so that it has to have a practical component, including field experiences and sort of consulting practices with clients, so that people learn how to be professionals. And then the final aspect of it is lifelong learning, is that you really keep learning as a development practitioner over time. So we try to be faithful to that original philosophy and original vision. And of course, we know that all of these areas of knowledge that you see here are important for to think about development problems, whether it's ecosystems, public health, education, social systems, economic. And so the idea is how to integrate those. And this is Dave's way to show that there's really, these are very highly interrelated systems of knowledge, and we need people who can operate across all of these systems of knowledge, be able to speak with enough familiarity with these various fields so that they can coordinate the efforts of experts and be able to tackle problems that cut across these fields. So, for instance, we have issues of sustainable livelihoods, community development, food and nutrition, social enterprise, energy transitions, climate adaptation. All of them really are the intersection of these various knowledge areas. And so the word integration is essential to a development practice education, which is an ability to have enough familiarity and enough with these various fields of knowledge so that you can work across them. I'm going to let either Karen or Dave take
Karen's
on.
going to talk about that. Thank you, Raghi.
Oh, thanks, Raghi. So I'll say just a little bit about the MDP governance structure, which is important to know because it really defines how our program operates. This program is an intercollegiate program. We have academic partners across campus. So the Humphrey School of Public Affairs and ICGC, as I mentioned earlier, are the primary partners offering the program. But in addition, we partner closely with these colleges that you see on the screen in education, public health, agriculture, et cetera, whose faculty work closely with our students to provide them with coursework and education from their specific disciplines and fields. So the program is structured as a 2-year program, as you probably already know. We start with an in-depth orientation for a week before classes start. And during the first academic year, the curriculum is more structured. And that's a time when you are taking on and learning about a lot of the things that will prepare you for your summer field placement in the following year. You're being introduced to the field of development practice, both theoretically and practically, and also being exposed to and having experience with a number of the methods you'll use in your practicum experiences, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, policy analysis, et cetera. All of this leading up to preparation for your summer field placement between your first and second years, which I think probably, Dave, you might say a bit more about later. And that leads to your second academic year where you have fewer required courses and more opportunity to develop areas of interest or minor programs for yourself. So the course requirements, the curriculum consist of the 4 categories you see here, the development practice core, and these are the required courses that I was mentioning that provide you with those theories and practical approaches and skills for development practice. The flex core, which are a second set of courses where you have the option to choose from a menu of courses that bring a particular area of knowledge. Electives, which are entirely up to you, and many students use these to fulfill a specialization or a graduate minor. And then finally, the practicum or practical experiences, the field experience in the summer between years 1 and 2, and the capstone project in year 2. Beyond the classroom, there are lots of opportunities in the MDP program to engage with your students, fellow students at Minnesota, as well as beyond Minnesota. And these are a few examples of things that our students have done. We have a group of students who just participated in the UN Climate Change Conference. We have had a number of students participate in other global conferences related to development practice. There's an annual conference with partner MDP programs around the world, the International Conference on Sustainable Development. And there are many opportunities on campus as well with your fellow students and with students from other programs to join co-curricular efforts related to what you're learning in the classroom. And Dave, I think over to you now.
Yep, thanks, Karen. I think one of the really important things that about the program is that kind of unscripted co-curricular opportunity or set of opportunities that's hard to communicate to you right now because the options change to some extent from year to year, but also they're driven a lot by students' individual interests and passions. And so I just think it's really important that you hear the message that there's lots of things that can be done to enrich the program beyond the way that we've designed it. And those were just a few examples that Dr. Brown just shared with you about things that are happening this year. So one of the other things that's really important for our program and something we're really proud of is our global engagement. And it's a fundamental kind of premise of the program is that we have to be globally engaged. We have to work with partners around the world. We have to cross boundaries, as Dr. Assad said earlier. And in the program, in the 10 years that we've been running the program, we've had 176 students working on 51 projects with 42 clients in 21 different countries. We have the good fortune of having had a number of, quite a large number of repeat customers, if you will, where we've had a long-term relationship with clients in particular locations or even across locations, so that we've been able to develop strong relationships and clear expectations about what students are able to do with them and what's necessary to work with a student team. But we also have one-off projects, if you will, where students work with clients based on, well, Abby will tell you about an example that just came up last summer where there's a relationship that exists through an incoming student, and we're able to take advantage of that relationship and put a student team in place. But we've been really fortunate to have great students come to the program and bring ideas, and we're also fortunate to have good partners around the world. I just want to tell you a little bit about what some of these relationships look like so you can get a bit better of a sense of what it means when we say field practicum or field experience. This is such an important part of the program. It's important to us that you really understand what it looks like and what type of work is being done. So one of the longest running relationships that we've had is with Rainforest Alliance, and we've had projects with Rainforest Alliance in Guatemala primarily, but also in Ecuador and Indonesia. Most of them focus on this idea of integrated conservation and development and on some aspect of sustainable livelihoods. And typically they work through a market-based approach where we're looking at value chain analysis, market research, and developing markets for products that are sustainable for forest-based communities. More recently, we've had a couple of projects in a row with Organic Health Response on Mfangano Island in Kenya. This is a community-based radio station, and they are working largely on kind of the intersection between public health, agriculture, forestry, and just community well-being. And so we've been able to support the organization in public health. And at the time when we built the relationship, they were thinking primarily about the pandemic and how to do pandemic response. So we were working with them on strategic planning and programming associated with COVID. And this is a piece of artwork actually showing some of the flyers that our students developed to communicate with the community. We've had, I'll spend a little less time on these next ones. We've had some projects in Colombia. We did one working on water, sanitation, and hygiene. It was participatory action research and had an evaluation focus. And again, this is water systems in rural Colombia. We've had a pair of projects working with Maya leaders in southern Belize, which is next to Guatemala, thinking about how to decolonize development and reconceive what development work looks like in indigenous communities in the Americas. They're thinking primarily about sustainable livelihoods and Maya livelihoods and Maya economics and redefining what that means. And they're thinking about it through community-based tourism. So we've been fortunate to work with Maya leaders in that area for a couple of years and hopefully make some good impact in the Maya forest. And then I'm going to let Elmo tell you about this next project.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. So in my project, we were very fortunate enough to work with the National Trust for Nature Conservation in Nepal. So my team and myself were able to travel to Nepal, spend 3 months over there in the Chitwan area, Chitwan National Park in the southern part of Nepal. It was honestly such a fascinating experience, right? We worked with the community over there on sustainable livelihood project. And basically, just to be brief, like the project that we worked on was mainly due to some communities suffered from dislocation. They were relocated from a certain area to a newly different geographic area within Nepal. So we really worked with the community to make sure that we are introducing projects that can help them sustain their livelihood. The amazing part of this, of course, is like the learning that we get as students, right? And whenever I reflect on my MDP experience, I always think of the idea of relevance. This is a program that is very relevant and relevant to any practitioner, and quite honestly, in any field that you want to do, not just in development, but I see it all across, right? Because you don't have to wait until you graduate in order to get a real life experience. As a matter of fact, you get this experience between the first and the second year during the summer. So you actually partner with, you work on a project with your team with different organization. It could be a governmental organization, a community-based organization, or even in the private sector. For us, we worked with a nonprofit organization, and we conducted qualitative and quantitative research by, of course, interviewing the community, making sure that we collect data that really reflects their perceptions of the phenomena. And also we did some statistical analyses on this. So, and that's why as I said to you, is like one of the most relevant degrees that you can ever get, because you really get to do work, not just in the classroom environment, but you get out in the world and you experience that. So that was my project in Nepal.
Nope, I'm not changing. Hold on just a second. There you go.
Oh, so that's a little bit about myself, Dave, I believe, right? So as I introduced myself at the very beginning, I'm originally from Egypt, and I came here to do the Masters of Development Practice through the Sawiris Foundation Scholarship for Egyptians. So also this is good for prospective students from Egypt who are maybe listening to the webinar after when it's recorded. There's a really nice scholarship that you can apply for on a yearly basis, fully funded, to come to Minnesota and study at the University of Minnesota, and specifically do the Master of Development Practice program. I've been very fortunate to be among the first cohort from the Sawiris Fellows. After I graduated, as I said, the MDP program really is a very relevant program. And of course, you guys have heard about how the program is designed and structured in a way that is so interdisciplinary, right? So you get to know and learn skills from so many different fields: the education field, international development, policy, and you can also do business analysis, right? Like cost benefit analysis and other things. So you're really equipped with skills that can really position you in a place where you can work wherever you want. So that depends on your vision and your mission and how you want to contribute to the world. So for me, when I graduated, I started working in the private sector with a development mentality, because as we all know, everything needs a partnership. The private sector itself or the government sector itself cannot really achieve sustainable development goals. So we all have to work together, right? I chose to work in the private sector. And of course, and this is something I hope everybody agrees with me here, the MDP program, I see it as the MBA of the development world. So you're really prepared with skills that will make you, of course, stand out of the crowd, right? And I currently work at Nike Incorporation as a program director for supply chain and project management. My capstone project, this is also another project that you get to do throughout your experience as an MDP student. So the first one is between your first year and second year, where you go out to a different country or even in the United States, and you work with an organization. And then you also have a capstone project in your second year. And for us, we worked with a think tank in Washington, D.C., and we did some research on the Mekong River and how that affects all of the Southeast Asian countries, right? So that's, I don't want to keep talking for long, but that's really my experience, and I will be here for any questions. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Elmo. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Abby, would you like to jump in and talk about your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the summer, so June and July of this year in Kenya. So this is a picture here with my team of fellow MDP students. And we were in Kenya working with World Vision and Vision Fund, which is specifically the microfinance subsidiary of World Vision. And the work that we were doing was primarily focused on research. So we were implementing a qualitative research methodology that's based on stories. So we spent our summer going and meeting with microfinance clients of Vision Fund and interviewing them and then analyzing that story data. And I think what was especially compelling to me about the experience was not just that we got the chance to go and do that field research, but that we also, as part of that, we were working alongside a team from Vision Fund that were all Kenyan. We came in and were able to train them on this research tool that they had expressed an interest in. And also, by the end, we were working with that Kenyan team to train other Vision Fund teams. I think we train people from about, 12 to 15 other Vision Fund and World Vision partners, so they can take that same research method on. And that research was happening in the context of a push on Vision Fund's side to really strengthen client training for their microfinance clients. So thinking about that broader human development piece and thinking about, since Vision Fund is a faith-based organization, thinking about, what are some of the values or what's the worldview that we come at this work from, and what do we think people need to lift themselves out of poverty besides just access to credit and other resources. So yeah, it was a really wonderful experience. I know Dave sort of alluded to this before, but my background is in microfinance. I'd spent 6 years working in with Opportunity International, which is a international network. It's an NGO of microfinance organizations. So just hearing some of the countries of folks who are on the call, and for people who might listen to this later as well. If for Uganda, if you've heard of Opportunity Bank, that was our partner there. And then in Ghana, our partner organizations were Opportunity International Savings and Loan, and also Sanapiaba Savings and Loans. To talk just a little bit more about, other work I've done, my interest and passion is around research and evaluation, and using that to understand multi-sector interventions, which is why I was really drawn to the MDP program, to be able to kind of continue strengthening not just different skills areas related to development practice, but also to really dig into other sectors that my work hadn't exposed me to yet. So I've been really excited to gain more greater understanding of, for example, sustainable agricultural development, as well as, public health and other focus areas, as well as strengthening my my statistics skills, since definitely needed that. So other things besides just the coursework that I'm taking right now, Dave has here, that I'm also, I have a graduate research assistantship, and that's with University of Minnesota Extension, which, traditionally that's focused on agricultural extension, but then they also have, community vitality team, which has an economic development component. And I've been able to work for their evaluation specialists, so gain a lot of hands-on experience doing evaluation in a US-based community development context, which has been new for me, and a great learning experience. And then, as Dave has noted here, I'm just starting my capstone now, so I can't, really share too much concretely about that. But I am working with a team for International Institute for Sustainable Development, which is based out of Canada, and they're a think tank. And we will be supporting their work, evaluating, sort of doing some participatory, I think some action research, some sort of developmental evaluation type work to look at an ongoing program that they have that supports, government and other large entities kind of who are looking at a macro level at agricultural advisory services to improve, food security and food systems in countries around the world. So yeah, happy to answer any questions via chat, or I think there's time for questions at the end.
Thanks, Abby. And then one more, our first year student, Disha, who doesn't have the opportunity to tell you about her field experience or capstone yet, but can tell you a little bit about herself and her experience early on in the program.
Hi, yes, so as Dave said, I'm first year MDP student, just getting done with my first semester, and super excited about the capstone and the summer field placement. But before that, my background, so I have done my BTech in food technology for my undergrad. And then I spent a lot of time deciding on what I wanted to do next. Before that, I worked as a development practitioner with the organization Pradhan in India for around 2 years. And I had a lot of grassroots experience from there. I worked on gender, agriculture, and microfinances. And then I came to realize that I needed to impact these things more by probably learning psychology. But then I thought public policy is also a way to go. And then I am a big fan of social enterprises. So you see, I was all there. And then it took me a while to realize, but then when I found MDB program, I felt like it it had everything that I needed in it. I can take social enterprise courses, and then there is public policy analysis courses, and then like we have a psychology to promote sustainability courses. So I think this was something that fit for me. So I decided to apply for the program, and then I felt like I wanted to know more about India and wanted to travel for 1 year. So both my professors here, Dave and Ragi, were like extremely supportive, and they were supportive of me taking that 1 year off. So just before like coming to school, I took a year off to travel and learn more about waste management problems in India. And then I am here, hence I'm here right now. So that's my basically background and journey to how I came across development practice. Yes, I think in short, it caters to everything that was required. And my like I have only been like a couple of months in the program, but what I can tell from the program that I have been through is like it bridges the gap that I had between my practical experiences and theories that were the foundations of these experiences. So I felt like, you know, those loopholes I had in my knowledge are being like, you know, properly filled by this. And it is a very hands-on program also. For example, in program evaluation courses, we are working with the real clients already, and it teaches a lot of soft skills along with the quantitative skills. It's a good balance of both quantitative and qualitative education. What I loved about this program is that it focuses a lot on teamwork. It focuses a lot on like, you know, working with other people and learning team building. It gives you a lot of opportunities to do that, which is really great. I love the Humphrey mentorship program. If you're coming, please join that. It gives you a very good support, like having a mentor to talk about things other than your advisors and professors is also a great support. And there's a lot of diversity. I love how diverse this place is. As an international student, it really makes me feel accepted. So as of now, this is where I am. And yeah, looking forward to going ahead with the summer field placement and questions from everyone.
Thanks, Disha. They're just about to find out their summer field placement, so there's a lot of anticipation right now for what they're going to be. Okay, I want to just move quickly through another couple of slides, and then I want to clear the space so that you can ask some questions. I have a few about careers. I think what I wanted to just communicate to you with these last couple of slides is that within this kind of complex intersecting world of development and development issues, planetary challenges, however you choose to characterize them, our students end up working all over the place, right? We work a lot at the intersections of these issues, but we also work within them specifically too. So we bring in a diverse group of students in every way into the program. People go through the program and they come out and they just as diversely move out into the world of global problems and issues and local issues. And some of the ways that shows up is that they work in different types of organizations. You know, you heard from Elmo talking about the private sector. We have folks in foundations, in the nonprofit sector, people working for local and federal government, and in multilateral organizations as well. So vertical strata from local to global. We have folks in the United Nations system who've come through the program. I'm just going to move quickly so you can see the slides later if you want to follow up on these. We have folks doing research and policy, Innovations for Poverty Action and JPAL Action Lab, looking at kind of what works and doing rigorous testing to figure out what works to affect change. Consultancy, a lot of folks go into consultancy after this, and a number of our graduates have ended up at Chemonics International, for example, and have different positions there. We have folks who have ended up in Conservation International, thinking about natural resource conservation, tribal peoples, and working across cultures and communities and nations, thinking about conservation outcomes. Locally, we have Land O'Lakes, which is a historic dairy cooperative that also has an international development division called Venture 37. A number of our alum have gone to work for that Venture 37 arm, working on new business development, program manager, program officer. Those middle two are probably the initial job title for most of the people who come out of the program. Program officer, program specialist, program manager, you know, some version of that as kind of the path into the career. And then a lot of our alumni, you've heard this mentioned a couple of times, go into evaluation. And one of the organizations locally that does evaluation in the nonprofit sector is the Improve Group. And I believe we've had 5 or 7 students come through the program and go right into the Improve Group and are working with NGOs and other organizations, both locally, nationally, and globally, thinking about evaluation and design of programs. And then, of course, we have a number of students who've gone on to higher ed. Forgive my photo here, but doctoral studies is a natural outcome of interaction with the university environment, right? And so I didn't actually include Elmo's in here, but Elmo's in a doctoral program. We have folks going into natural resource sciences and management, education and sustainability, evaluation, public policy, social policy. So you can see that there's not just a one single train track leading you in one direction, right? There's lots of different options that come out of the program, as Elmo talked about, and our alumni are proving that out in their experiences. So in terms of coming into the program, this is just a snapshot of the undergraduate majors that people have had in the last 5 years coming into MDP. And the larger text indicates more students coming in with that major. So hopefully you can see yourself in there. And I think the point of this slide is not to tell you that you should have a particular major. It's to tell you that we're looking for people from all different backgrounds and all different types of training. And there's a place for you in this program, right? Your perspective is needed in this program and in the field. And we welcome you into the MDP with all these different backgrounds. Some folks have mentioned specializations that you can pursue while you're in the program. Similar type of diagram that gives you a sense of how people have minored or specialized within the MDP. Clearly, program evaluation is the most popular minor, but you can see that we have folks in business, integrative leadership, science, technology, environmental policy, public health, early childhood policy. Just like everything that I've talked about so far, there's a great diversity in what people specialize in and where they want to go with their career when they're done. A little bit about, last slide here, I promise, a little bit about the cohort. We're averaging over the life of the program about 15 students in the cohort. We tend to have about 65% domestic and 35% international. That 65% hides the fact that a lot of our domestic students are first generation students. And so it's probably more 35% US citizens, 35% first generation US citizens, and 35% international, something more like that. That doesn't quite add up, but 65% female and 35% male, which tracks with university and graduate school enrollment trends pretty broadly. And yeah, we hope to see you in the next version of this graph. Last slide, I'll keep this up in the background, but we've got the email for Humphrey admissions. And then I've got my own email up there. If you have any questions, you can use either one of these emails to ask questions about the program. That would be me. And about the admissions process, that would be Michael at HHHadmit. I just want to thank, before I jump into questions, I just want to thank you all for being here and thank all of you who've come to be on the panel and talk about the program.